this letter, and it was about 12 pages long to this little girl, and it was a beautiful letter. I should have brought it because it just said, you know, grow up, be a woman. You know, it's almost like a women's right thing, like, you know, you're powerful, you'll grow. Now you're just a little girl, but someday you can change the world. And then he said something about, he said, and as for praying, he said, do your real sure enough praying on the inside of you in a silent way. Pray outside too, but you will discover the inside ones are the ones that get results. He said, praying is an elegant thing, and as your head is bowed in deep thoughts, your soul is walking in that still and silent temple of the Creator. So, I mean, he was just, the thoughts that this man had, I think if they were taught as today more as a course, we'd have a lot better country here. And speaking of the 1913 Union thing, here's what he said about unions. He says, I guess the first time I heard about a union, I wasn't no more than 8 years old, and what I heard was the story of the two rabbits. It was a he-rabbit and a she-rabbit that a pack of hounds chased all over the countryside. And finally these rabbits, they holed up in a hollow log, and outside the dogs were howling, and the he-rabbit turned to the she-rabbit, and he said, what do we do now? And the she-rabbit, she just gave him a little wink, and she says, we'll stay here till we outnumber them. So what he said, I took sides with the union on all arguments and argued for higher pay for cotton pickers, orange grove workers, fruit pickers, and cannery workers. He says, I spoke out for equal rights for all races of people. Hindu, Japanese, Chinese, Okies, Arkies, Texans. I guess we're a whole different race of people, Texans. Dust Bowl refugees and migratory workers. He said, I cussed out high rents, robbing landlords, and fake real estate racketeers, loan sharks, finance companies, and punk politicians in all offices. Just me, my harmonica, and my old guitar. And he says he fights for all. He says, I sang at 100 union workers' lodges and met every color and kind of human being you could imagine. I speak as a singer for all the brotherhoods and sisterhoods and all the kids and childhoods and all the other hoods, but I fight against the white hood of the Ku Klux Klan because I hate them and their gizzards and their lizards and their wizards. He says, I speak for the human beings of the human race. And that's another interesting side story to Woody. We did a show in Tampa many years ago, and the author Stetson Kennedy, who wrote a very famous book where he kind of disguised himself about racism in the South. And Woody actually lived with him in the swamps of Florida for a period of time, and they actually fought the Ku Klux Klan, you know, had him shooting at him and everything. And so here's another facet of his life. You could do a whole movie about Stetson Kennedy, who I think just died within the last couple of years. And so you might check out his book. But you know, Woody also branded as this un-American. He served in the Merchant Marine twice and was torpedoed twice during World War II. And one of these episodes, that all the sailors were scared the ship was going to sink. So the head officer said, could you get out your guitar and sing to help calm this situation down? And Woody said, but he wanted the ship was segregated. So Woody said, no, not unless everyone, the blacks and the whites, I can sing to everyone. I'm not going to sing just to the white folks on the ship. So the captain agreed, and so Woody kind of calmed their spirits. And that's a famous story in another book that Cisco wrote. That's another book that's come out in the last few years about Woody, his experiences in the Merchant Marine. But not only that, he became a member of the Almanac Singers with Pete Seeger and some folks, and they went out and sang on their national radio broadcast a lot of anti-Hitler songs. And when I went through all 3,000 songs at his daughter's house one night, I would put them in the stacks of subject matter, and the ones about that were anti-Hitler was a lot of anti-Hitler, but also a huge stack of songs about the Jewish experience. He was married to Marjorie, who was she was a Martha Graham dancer, and so he had a whole canon of just Jewish songs about the Holocaust, etc. He's very famous even for a whole canon of children's songs. Put your finger in the air, in the air. I just heard I'm going to mail myself a letter on a U.S. Post Office commercial last year I'm gonna mail myself a letter. So his music is still, like we've been saying, is very much alive. We went up and did a Woody's thing at, I guess it's called West Texas State University. It's in Canyon, Texas, and Nora that night took us out to lunch, and she said, no, this one's on the Dropkick Murphys. I don't know if any of you know the band, the Dropkick Murphys, but they took a Woody song of a piece of paper where he had wrote about 3 songs about shipping out to Boston and turned it to this very famous little ditty they do to open their shows, etc. And this was about 3 years ago when the Boston Red Sox won the World Series. Well, it became such a popular song in Boston that during the 7th inning stretch, they would play that Woody song. So, I mean, he's so alive and making money still, not to mention just all the, I think NASCAR even uses This Land Is Your Land as their theme song this year. It's, and I've talked to Nora about that. She doesn't really consider it selling out, that her dad's music. She says just anything to keep her dad's music alive. She's, and of course, like all other foundations, they need money to try to keep the archives intact, and it's boxes and boxes of stuff, which is moving, by the way, to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the next couple of years. They're actually finally building a brick and mortar museum, and a very famous billionaire up there, of all people, a banker, who Woody was very, donated $3 or $4 million to build a Woody museum finally, and they're going to have, in conjunction with Tulsa University and Oklahoma University, have a lot of studies and stuff. And so, like I say, he's more alive today than ever. I do the Woody Guthrie Folk Festival up in his hometown now. It's went on for like, I guess it's our 15th year this year, and we've had everyone, you can name that, and everyone gets in free, and everybody plays for free. And Woody has one sibling still living. Her name's Mary Jo Guthrie, and she's probably in her early 90s by now, and she was actually married to a banker named Hewlett for many years. At first, when we started the festival, we'd hang out, and he would always rib me about how he was Woody's sister married a banker, but how Woody really liked him. And but here's Woody wrote a famous song about bankers called "The Jolly Banker," which I'm not going to do today either. But here's something Woody even said back in his day. This kind of relates to what goes on. He says, "The national debit is one thing I can't figure out. I heard a senator on the radio saying we owed somebody $15 jillion. I don't remember his name, but I remember the price, and he called it the national debit. Well, if the nation is the government and the government is the people, then I guess the people owes the people. That means I owe me and you owe you, and I forget the regular fee. But if I owe myself something, I would be willing just to call it off rather than have some senators argue about it. And I know you would too. Do the same, and we wouldn't have no national debit." He says, "I ain't in favor of a revolution, and you ain't either. But I'm in high favor of a change in things that will give you and me and all the folks plenty of what they need to get along on. Plenty of work, plenty of pay, plenty of rest, plenty of schooling, plenty of the pleasures of this life. I really hope to God that the rich folks will give you these things as fast as you step out and throw out your chest and ask for them. They ought to be glad to. You build everything they've got. There's a whole army of you and just a little bunch of them. And they got more than they need. I like poor people because they'll come out a winner in the long run, and I like rich people because they need friendship."